Yeah, everybody. Make sure I'm recording. You're set. Today we are covering how to qualify potential buyers and sellers. Before we begin, let's hear about progress from the success system so far. And skip forward. Objectives for today are number one, we're going to identify where and how to lead generate for buyers and sellers. Number two, classify leads by ability and motivation. Number three, qualify a buyer and sellers in preparation for an appointment. To start thinking about what you will learn today, let's consider what questions we might have and what we'd like to learn more about. Find a partner and have a 2-minute conversation about your questions and what you'd like to learn more about. Jot your notes down in your participant guide so that it sticks with you. As we go through the content today, listen to hear if your question is answered. Here's a quote from the Shift book. Your number one job as a real estate agent is to find ways to get in the path of motivated buyers and sellers. I think Gary would agree with that. Congrats, the lead generation and follow-up habits you have started are the first step to fulfilling what Gary Keller says is number one job. The second half of this quote contains a very important word, motivate. When we follow the 80-20 principle, one of the KW6 personal perspectives that we covered in day one, we focus our 20% on our most motivated buyers and sellers. Today, we will cover how to qualify leads and contacts to uncover how motivated and able they are to transact. Let me get us caught up on the slides. Here's where we're at so far in Ignite. Come a long way. There's that brilliant quote that is 100% true. And that's all businesses today. You think about anything that you've seen online, either an Instagram guide or Instagram guide where you signed up for something. And if you did make that transaction, let's say you did make that first transaction. What did you end up getting? An email, right? A follow-up. If you did make that transaction, what did you get? Same thing, probably a different message. So their lead generation mechanism was the marketing, the ad that you clicked on. The follow-up was after the fact to get you to either buy for the first time or buy more, buy again. And the second half of this quote, whoa, too fast, too fast. The second half of this quote contains a very important word, motivate. When we follow the 80-20 principle, one of the KW6 personal perspectives that we covered in day one, we focus our 20% on our most motivated buyers and sellers. Today, we will cover how to qualify our leads and contacts and uncover how motivated and able they are to transact. But let's be honest, everybody wants to transact. Some people are a little more motivated than others. How do we tell who is and who is not as motivated as the next person? When we are new to something, it can be easy to get caught up in the myth understandings that block success. Remember the lesson in day one about limited beliefs? That's what myth understandings are. Unlimit your thinking to move forward. An example of a myth that I had about lead generation when I first started the business. Let's see here. I know the big push that everyone in Keller Williams advised. Hey, how's it going?
Right, how you doing?
Good. You in for Ignite today?
What's that?
Are you coming to Ignite?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll take Gary. He'll flip him back over here.
Wait, stop, wait, yeah, back.
Just thought I'd have somebody in the crowd at least to kind of talk to.
Yeah, no. It's silly, I was gonna say they called me up so you would be all alone today, in here.
I appreciate that. No worries at all. Have you been to Ignite so far?
Yeah.
Okay. How's it been going?
Well, let me just tell you where I'm at real fast is, I have had some financial setbacks.
Okay.
So right now, for a while, my license was supposed to have been in inactive status. And then come to find out it wasn't, the REC did not actually follow through and put it in inactive. So I said, well, I'm gonna try to come back. Now, I have waited for 362 days for a tax refund to come. It was held up for stupid reasons.
Wow.
Not due to my fault. And I finally got that, and I'm trying to pay some bills, but it's still not enough. So I have my house up for sale. And I have another refund for 24. This one, other one was for 23. So they know all this, and they said, well, we'll keep it on, like inactive here, and we won't charge any desk fees or board fees or anything like that. So I guess they gave me a certain amount of time to figure stuff out. So they said, come in, take the trains, do your 30-day checklist, all that kind of stuff. So I'm working a couple other jobs, trying to float myself.
For sure.
I'm a FedEx driver, and it has really truly been the toughest job I've ever done in my life. Not because the work is impossible to do, but it's so body and mind crushing.
Oh, I'm sure.
And we're like mandatory 7 days a week, sometimes 6, when like snow, we had got super behind. And I said, I'm turning 61, I gotta get out of this mess.
Yeah. I had a buddy that spent a lot of time with both FedEx and UPS, and it's just it's corporate. So whatever they say goes, and if they need you, then you gotta work, and regardless of what those hours are. He finally got out of that recently. He's still driving, I can't remember the company, but
He's a contractor then? Was he a contractor? That's most of the drivers are.
I want to say that he was, so he was a driver for FedEx in Atlanta and then moved back home. He's living in Louisville now. And went to work for UPS at the airport. So like, I guess the car, like the planes coming in and out.
Okay.
He had a pretty good job there, or position. I think it was like a supervisor or something, and just basically what you described. I mean, it's mental anguish, like just having to go when they say, and a lot of empty promises, I guess, then I think they were also having some stuff with the union at that time. I can't remember, but.
I just looked it up on my phone. There's a question that some of us have been kind of asking. They decided to put express in with ground. And so it doesn't seem exactly fair how they did it. Express packages are usually like this, not always, but a lot of times they're an envelope or a small box. It's usually not too heavy to carry. Whereas the stuff we were doing up till now, ground was a lot of bulky stuff, a lot of heavy, a lot of multiples. And so whenever they put us together, they kept telling us they were going to put us together with Express. Well, when they did, the Express drivers were still just doing these little simple routes, and we got all this mess to the point where, are you a Star Trek fan and all?
My brother was, I never got into it. I'm familiar with it though.
The original Star Trek with William Shatner and all that, they had a thing called three-dimensional chess. It was like a chessboard that had 3 levels on it. That's what this is. It gets so complicated because now you have somewhere else to be before you can even start your route. Like we would have 12 o'clock deliveries and 1:30 deliveries that had to go out on time, you know. And that meant that I had to figure out where they were on my route. And forget about however I had originally thought to route it. Now I got to do the route before the route. So anyway, it changed the game. And then we're like, well, what are express drivers doing? Are they doing the same thing? No, they're not doing the same thing. They're doing the really easy routes like Georgetown and Lexington and stuff like that. I'm like,
Quick stuff.
why are we doing all their work and they're still getting gravy?
Right.
And so I just looked it up and here's your answer. It says, somebody else asked the same question. It said, generally FedEx Express drivers are employees, not contractors. I'm a contractor. I get all the dirt work. I'm not complaining. But I've had a job through all this stuff we've been through, but it now explains why they kind of treat them like the baby of the family, and we get the bulk of it. Yeah, so
they go through like a hiring service for like newer employees.
Are you talking about for the original Express or for anybody now? Like,
well, I'd say like the contractors.
What they do is they use employment agencies like I came in through Indeed.
Okay.
They'll advertise. The contractor I came in on, he's not even around anymore. They wanted him to do a route in Dry Ridge, and he said, no, I won't do it. And the reason was he was gonna lose money on it. So they said, well, fine, then we'll take your routes away. Bye-bye.
Yeah. They kind of punish you.
Yeah, so
That's so crazy.
It's like working for a pirate, you know. I hate to say
Yeah.
that, but
I mean, it sounds like it.
you never know what's gonna come up the pipe. So
And two, they gotta compete with Amazon and everything else. It's kind of changing that industry. So I can't imagine, I'm sure they're robbing Peter to pay Paul and they're taking it out of their employees.
well, apparently, this is a trial. Like there's like 4 markets and Georgetown, Lexington is one of them. So what they're gonna get out of this is they get to close down those terminals where Express was located. Save money on that.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're have really improved their service, because it's been a struggle to get their stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
So.
And service was already questionable, probably.
Yeah, I mean, but the landscape is changing. All the like, here's FedEx, DHL, Amazon, the other carrier, there's other carriers out there doing it. But it's getting harder and harder, more expensive, to the point where UPS and FedEx were like the most expensive ones. And so they're starting to lose more of a share of the market because their prices need to stay up, but market's coming down. So I think they were bailing out the boat and they said, we can do this. But then it's been chaotic. It's really been
It's a slowly sinking ship.
Yeah, like some days, like there's been days when the plane is late. And so all the 12 o'clock and 1:30 express stuff is gonna get pushed back. You know, or not at all, and they go to the next day. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We wonder how much they really thought this through before they did it.
They're probably just throwing stuff at the wall at this point.
Yeah.
With Amazon, I mean, it's hard to compete.
So my name is Jeff. What was your
I'm
name?
Dustin.
Dustin?
Dustin Moore, yeah.
And I just said all that to say I'm here to absorb whatever I can learn and whatever you are teaching today. And
well, I will try to be the most educational as possible. We're talking about right now, working with potential buyers and sellers.
Okay.
And then the next session, goal is to get these done in an hour. The next session is session 14, win the buyer. So we'll talk about tactics on how to convert the leads, the buyer leads that you do get into clients.
Okay.
Performance of clients. So what we talked about so far, back up real quick. just today's agenda, we'll talk about finding and motivated, classify by able, ready, and willing, qualified buyers and sellers. We'll recap and then talk about the data success system since you've been to Ignite. I'm sure you're familiar with that. This is probably one of the truest quotes by Gary. I mean, they're all true, but this is a fact of the matter, right? All the big companies have to do this as well as us. Number one job as a real estate agent is to find ways to get in the path of motivated buyers and sellers, right? That's the only job we have. We don't do that. We don't have a job. We don't get paid. So how do we get in front of those people? It starts off with talking about myth understandings. I think that was in session one. Focusing on removing those that sometimes block our success, our activities that lead to that success. I know for me personally, one of my big myth understandings when I first got into the business, I came straight into Keller Williams in 2017 and everybody was preaching like call FISBOs, call expires, like are you gonna be prospecting those? And I didn't. I was on a team and I was chasing every internet lead I could get my hands on that would answer the phone and agree to meet me at a property. Well, I spent about 6 to 8 months doing that and just spinning my wheels, not closing a whole lot and really draining my bank account. So I took a step back, actually did Bold, which is a program Keller Williams offers, and that was in the fall, I think October, my first year. And it really kind of helped form my perspective that I have today. And that's when I said, you know what, let me do the one thing that they've been preaching since I got my license, because you look around and nobody's hardly doing it. So if I get really good at this one thing that everybody says works, everybody in the business, in the industry, not just this company, says works, and got no choice but to not only stand out, but to be successful. So really honed in on that. I use that script from Bold for the expireds that first day, and a lead company, Land Voice, that provides those types of leads, was actually sponsoring Bold. So I printed out that spreadsheet, started calling. First or second person I talked to on there, I got an appointment out in Frankfurt. Just going off that script, I was shocked. So I rinsed and repeated, got really good at that script. In 2019, I sold 26 expires, and like 2 or 3 of them were FISBOs. So I was like, light bulb, that's crazy. The one thing that they've been preaching works, and I just had that myth understanding that, well, I'm a new agent. If they didn't sell with their previous agent, what do I have to offer? You know? When I found out these people have real needs, they're motivated sellers, a lot of them, and they just need guidance and communication, and they weren't getting that. They hadn't heard from their agent in months. Sometimes they hadn't even heard from their agent since they signed the contract.
Wow.
Hadn't gotten feedback or adequate feedback, and that's how we put our best foot forward. So it was a real eye-opening experience for me, and ties into kind of some of those misunderstandings, because I was just making an excuse for not doing the activity or doing what I need to do. How buyers find their agent, I think this is up to date. So 47% of all buyers find their agent from a referral, friend, neighbor, or relative. That's goes up to 57% for first time home buyers, and then 41% for repeat buyers. 13% of all buyers used an agent previously for a transaction. 2% first time home buyers. I don't know what that means. Use agent previously for a transaction.
It sounds like repeat business, like I had a guy that sold me my house in Covington.
Mhm.
He was kind of, still around and keeping in contact with me, and, I'm sure that he hoped that he'd get a repeat business. If I
Sure.
move up to a bigger house or something, whatever. Yeah, so that's good. It's knowing people. Just knowing people, I guess.
Right. Well, I was just like first time buyers. Well, they hadn't bought anything. I don't know how they would have a 2%. I don't know how they would say they used an agent previously for transaction unless it was for some other transaction, right? The first timers.
Yeah.
Like, That's probably why that's so low.
Maybe they saw them, they talked to them at an open house, or we've been kind of in connection with them.
Maybe,
Never.
or for a rental even, I suppose. Looks like 7% across the board inquired about a property they saw online. Still sub 10% on the website, for sale by owner, right around 5%. Referral from another agent in at 5%, visit open house at 4%. More buyers are finding their agents through referrals than from any other source, which means more people who know you are an agent, the more potential you must help them with. Or wait. More buyers are finding their agents through referrals than from any other source, which means the more people who know you are an agent, the more potential you must help them with a home purchase and the more likelihood for referrals. That reads funny. Now sellers, on the other hand, probably very similar. Referrals right there around 40%, dips down for repeat sellers, 35%. Use an agent previously for transaction coming in about 25 to 30%. Personal contact, everything else below that's sub 5%, it looks like, right? Skip that. Classify by able, ready, and willing. Focus becomes increasingly possible in direct proportion to how clear you are about what you want, when you want it, and what you must do to get it. Come from curiosity. That's probably one of my favorite things, or principles, philosophies, that Keller Williams puts a lot of emphasis on. They always say what come from curiosity and contribution, and I feel like even in tough moments, if you can just focus on that element, oftentimes it allows you to navigate that conversation the best way for a win-win. I'm trying to think of an example to apply that. When it feels as if you've got some clients or maybe another agent on the other side of the transaction that are being stubborn, it's kind of hard to get them to understand, or, I guess understand what you want them to understand, or take action. And I think you have to come from curiosity in order to relay that message to them for them to understand it. It usually comes in the order of question asking, right? I think that is probably fundamentally the only thing that we do. We don't sell houses, right? I mean, these are $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 price tags. A house sells itself.
Right.
We just open the door. Now, we do more than that. There's a lot of people out there that just open the door, but I think fundamentally the most important things that we do as professionals is ask great questions and listen. That's it. So I think curiosity kind of covers that. So classify your opportunities. This is a system that I've used in the past. I don't use it as much today, but definitely could. So classifying A buyer and seller, B buyer and seller, C buyer and seller. So way that Ignite breaks that down is an A buyer and seller, someone that's able, ready, and willing to do business in the next 2 weeks. Now, the way I use that in my business, it's more so people that are ready to do something within the month. Those are people ready now. That's who needs to be getting the bulk of my focus.
Okay.
Because my goal is to convert them into a client. B buyer and seller would be someone who's able, ready, and willing to do business in 15 to 60 days. So roughly 2 months, 2 weeks to 8 weeks. And a C buyer and seller is someone that's able, ready, and willing to do business 2 more months out. So I kind of, for the B buyers, so going back to A, anybody that's looking to do something this month. B, I usually focus on 1 to 3 months, and then C is everybody 3 months and more. There's a lot of ways that you can apply that to your business, but for instance, if you've got one of each of those. You probably don't want to be showing that C buyer 10 properties a week. And not checking in with those A buyers as often, right? Because those people aren't gonna do anything for at least 2 months. Why are they looking at so many houses? Those are most likely not gonna be available when they're ready, willing, able to do something, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of agents, that's a trap. And it's easy to fall into that trap when you don't come with curiosity, ask enough of the right questions on the front end of things. Because you get into that scenario where you're needing to get paid. And anybody that's willing to talk to you and go look at something, you want to do that because that's gonna, in theory, gonna get you closer to getting paid. But if you haven't asked the right questions on the end of that to identify or qualify them as A, B, or C, that's when you start spinning your wheels.
Yeah, I never heard that before.
The A, B, and C.
Yeah.
It can definitely be very helpful when you've got a lot of leads to manage. Now, if you don't have a database that you're managing those in, I would highly encourage adopting one. Just something that can, house your contacts, their info, and allow you to maintain it systematically so that you know when to talk to the next person and when you last talked to everybody in that systems, because your, C buyers there, I would call it nurture. You want to touch them at least once a month, talk to them, check in, see if anything's changed with their plans. Bs, I would say, talk to maybe 1 to 2 times a week or 1 to 2 times a month. And then your hots, I would say 1 to 2 times a week, because your goal there would be to convert them to an appointment, because the name of the game is getting the contract signed. So if the first step to getting a commission check isn't an offer to purchase contract, it's an agency agreement between you and that client, then you've got to get in front of that client, demonstrate that value, and get those papers signed, whether it be a buyer representation agreement or a listing agreement. Get caught up here. So backing up though, qualified buyers and sellers, you probably heard the phrase ready, willing, and able. Or ready, able, and willing in many contexts. In real estate, we think about this word a little differently. We say able, ready, and willing when we are classifying our potential buyers and sellers. Why do we do this? Well, even though all leads and contacts have potential, they're not all going to close on a home next month. Some contacts may not be able to either buy or sell at this time, right? How do we know if they can buy or not? Usually they've got the cash and they know they can buy, or they spoke to a lender if they need a loan, and that lender's qualified them accordingly and said, hey, you're qualified up to this amount, or you're not. You need to work on this, this, and this, and you should be ready to go in 3 to 6 months. So that's one way, and that's why they start with able. Because going back to that example earlier, let's say that person needs to work on some stuff, credit, financials, whatever it may be. Well, I classify them as a C buyer, right? They're not ready, or they're not able yet. They're probably ready and willing. They want to do something. They're tired of renting from the slumlord. They're ready to go, but they're unable. And that's why they start with able rather than ready and willing, right? Because everybody who wants to change their current environment is ready and willing. They just may not be able.
It's good.
Potential buyer might need time to save money for a down payment or work on their credit worthiness to be able to obtain a mortgage. A seller may not be able to sell because they do not have the full rights to the property or have non-mortgage liens on the property. We start with able so we can devote the right amount of time and resources for each potential client based on their needs and where they are. Remember the first C in our Y4C2 T's. The customers always come first. Now, I am a fan of having a solid system. I mean, I think everybody uses a system daily, whether they're aware of it or not, you've got a system. And the fact that you haven't intentionally established a system doesn't mean you don't have one, right? You have a system of not having a system in that sense.
Not a very good system.
Not a very good system. So I like having little checklists, little lead forms like this, similar to this, that allow me to navigate that conversation when I'm talking to someone either over the phone or in person to make sure I ask all the right questions, because it's easy when you're getting to know somebody to get, to allow conversation to drift off. So having this like system or lead form when you're qualifying a buyer or even a seller helps make sure you get all the pertinent information that you can by asking the right questions, so that you can help that person, not just for that moment, but down that road of that first transaction, hopefully that next one, as long as the first one goes according to plan and you exceed expectations there. And I think it's easy, especially as a newer agent. And I mean, even today, like not being a newer agent, there's certain circumstances where you're in a conversation, and this is something I've established since having my license and getting some experiences. When I'm in a conversation and they mention something that sparks a question, or I get that feeling. In the past, I've been apt to, I guess, suppress that and not ask that question that, I was curious about based on whatever they mentioned that I wanted to get a little more clarity on. And what happened in the past is that usually came back up down the road somewhere. It could have created an additional hurdle. So anytime I'm in a conversation, I'm qualifying somebody, I'm asking them questions, they bring up something that I definitely want to dive into. I let them finish and then I bring that up and make sure I get clarity on that, because that's going to allow me to minimize the chances of those additional hurdles coming up down the road, and also allow me to address that concern at that time. Right? Role play, we'll skip that. Go into touch plans. This one, you have uncovered your A, B, and C buyers. When you uncover a buyer who is not able, ready, and willing to buy right now, that indicates they are a future transaction you need to stay in relationship with. Use your touch plans to nurture that relationship. We will learn more about working with A buyers in session 14, When the Buyer. So this is an example of a touch plan here. I know this is in the red book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's a 19 to connect, 36 to convert, and 1 to submit. So this is one system that works for communicating with your database and maintaining those relationships. So the 19 to connect, I mean, in summary, whatever that number is at the top, there's usually that many opportunities to connect with that person, whether it be phone, email, text, or in person. So 19 connect, that's the 4 quarterly phone calls. If you're not talking to your sphere in that manner already, I would encourage you to do so. A quarterly call goes a long way. And we're going back to, the more people that know you, like you, trust you, they're going to do business with you and they're going to send you business. So maintain those relationships. Then you got 12 touches. Those could be monthly, could be like a newsletter that you send out to your database in the form of a monthly email newsletter, market report, or video. 2 touches that are promotional direct mail, such as a magnet, calendar, printed market report, etc. 2 easy ones. We live in Lexington. There's a lot of Kentucky fans. Basketball schedule, football schedule. Could be, if you've got a lot of, people in your sphere that have kids that are going to school, could be a school calendar each year, right? Just something in the mail, something tangible they can put on their fridge and be a constant reminder that you're doing what you're doing. And then last but not least, on that 19 Connect is One Touch, which would be an annual event, party, movie screening, get together for that sphere of influence. People that already know you, like to trust you, or you feel like you're moving in that direction with that relationship, because that's gonna help you build further rapport further in that relationship, right? And then you got 30-60 convert. Again, that's the 4 telephone calls, 26 touches instead of the 12, the 19 connect. That's 2 a month, right? Or a little bit more. Bi-weekly email offering some type of information of value to the consumer. 2 touches being events, get-togethers, parties, and then 4 direct mail, such as the magnet calendar or market report. And you got the 1 to cement. A high value touch solidifies the relationship you have just established and opens doors for future interaction. One thing I can think of on that, you meet someone at an open house, right? For the first time, you'll have a good conversation, and chances are they came by your open house, it went by someone else's open house. Now, if you've had your license a long time, you probably have heard that the gold is in the follow-up, and it is, because in that scenario, a lot of people don't follow up after the open house. Now, sometimes they do, sometimes that's in the form of a phone call, a lot of times it's in the form of a text. What would it look like on the 1 to cement if that was a personal letter to that person in the mail? Something tangible with your business card, whatever it may be. But those are all different examples, systems that people use to communicate with their database to increase conversions.
It's good. They were talking about this in bold last year when I first came into it. I remember sitting in a session, they were talking about that, but it's really good because, you know, you got to do something.
Yeah, staying top of mind. And it's hard enough to, you know, build new relationships or create new relationships as it is. And more so like when you're generating leads and buyer leads, seller leads, that's difficult already. So you don't want those efforts to go in vain. So you got to have something on the other side of that that helps you maintain that relationship, staying in front of that person. And that's what you call leverage in the red book, because you use your tools and your systems in order to maintain that communication, build those relationships. So that's in the form of automated communication, like email. There's some systems out there that automate text as well. And then there's the manual communication in that system, which are the phone calls or the manual text, maybe not as much automated. They all kind of play a role. The automated really just kind of keeps you top of mind. Those manual communication or touches are more like building that relationship. Automated, keeping you top of mind. Manual, building those relationships further, right? Because you're having a one-on-one conversation.
It probably means more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there was a gal that was in here a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about building her business. Maybe not entirely, but a lot of it was built off of open houses. Open houses.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize it. She said, you know, she would go to people's open houses, or she would ask other agents, and wasn't even her listing. She said, can I go to your open house, or can you care if I conduct one for you? And she said that she was getting a lot of, I guess, at least warm contacts out of it, maybe even some hot. Because some people come to the open house and say, oh, I really don't like this house. Do you know anything better than this? Oh yes, I can help you.
That's right. Yeah.
So
no, that's brilliant. You're probably talking about Emily Crump. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have the listing yourself, there's other agents that do, especially in our office. And a lot of times, not everybody wants to host an open house where they've got too many listings that they can't host every single one open. So they'd be more than happy to have you help them work for the seller, right? Because the seller wants that thing sold. And unless you're holding it open, they're gonna be looking at those showings. And if you're not having showings or as much as you'd like to, those open houses give you another opportunity to get more people through. And at the very least, it demonstrates to that seller that you're exhausting your efforts to get that place sold.
Yeah, well, that's good teamwork too, because
Absolutely.
you want this, the buyer and the seller to get as much action out of this thing as possible.
And that's the first L in the 3 L's in the red book, leads listed or listings, leads, leverage. And you gotta leverage those listings to get more leads, right? Like you got it. That's the number one thing you want to get more leads because they bring buyers. It allows you an opportunity to market online and bring more leads in. So somebody else wants to do that for me, by all means, especially if I don't have the means to do so. Because we both win. Pre-listing questionnaire, I know this can be helpful, either prior to that appointment or during that appointment. I know a lot of high-level teams use this prior to the appointment. They call someone up, get them to agree to the appointment. They send this to them in the mail along with the seller disclosure, and 9 out of 10 times if they show up on that appointment, and this is already filled out along with that seller's disclosure, they're gonna sign that contract with you. But this allows you to, I guess, protect your time, again, going back to making sure you're focusing on able, ready, and willing buyers and sellers. Because if there's something that would make them unable or unwilling or not ready, it's probably gonna come up in one of these questions. You know, for instance, if it was going through probate as part of an estate, somebody just passed away, that's gonna come up in one of these questions. If it's not on here, then I encourage you to design one that has that question, because it may not make sense for you to meet with them right at that point in time.
Yeah, because it might have 6 more months to get through probate or something like that.
Or it's a couple going through divorce and, you know, they're not on the same page. And you need them to be on the same page if they want to sell it prior to making that divorce petition. If not, then you need to wait until the attorneys figure it out. So yeah, I guess number 5 would probably be an umbrella question for a lot of that stuff. If we sell your home in the next 30 days, will that pose a problem for you? If yes, what would that problem be? Now, some teams that are doing a lot of production, they've got someone working for them. Leverage, leads or listings, leads, leverage being in the form of people, systems, tools. So they've got a system and a person in their office that calls these sellers prior to that appointment, asking those questions and fills out that form for them. Going back to those touch plans, we get caught up in the book. So at this point, you have uncovered your A, B, and C sellers. When you uncover any seller who is not able, ready, and willing to buy right now, that indicates they are a future transaction, just like buyers. This is when you use your touch points to nurture that relationship. For example, you could send B and C sellers market updates that keep them informed of the equity they could leverage to purchase a new home or investment property. We will learn more about working with A sellers in session 15 when the seller. Your call to action for this session is to question and categorize your A, B, and C buyers and sellers in your database and set them on touch plans to stay top of mind. Now, one way you can do that, if you've already got a database, great. If you don't, as you're adding these people in, so the first question I ask myself is, do they have real estate? Because in our database, we use a similar system to A, B, and C. We use hot and nurtures. So hot is someone like an A, kind of a B, someone's willing to do something in the next 2 months, and a nurture is 3 to 12 months. They want to do something within the year, they don't know when, and they haven't taken the steps necessary to start that serious approach, right? So what that looks like is we add, so those are stages in our database. Now, command's got something similar, I can't remember what they call it, might be stage, might be status. But every system that I can think of has tags, and that's kind of like a way to code a contact or label that contact, categorize them. You know, put them in a bucket, they're wearing a specific type of hat, whatever that may be, they're a fireman, they're a veteran, they're a policeman, they work at UK, I know that's big and important, I'm thinking some of the tags we use in our system. I've got tags, because I'm not from this area originally, I've got tags for anybody that I know from back home, or that I met at EKU, they've got an EKU tag. So these can also be tags in your system, A buyer, B buyer, C buyer, same thing for sellers. That way you can market it to them strategically and just set this system up automatically, right? Because anytime you add someone to the system, what would it look like if you added the tag A buyer and a action plan started, or a campaign started, command calls it, which means they're gonna go ahead and start receiving those automatic emails once a month or twice a month. It's gonna remind you to call them once a month or once a quarter. And that way, it kind of frees up some stuff up here so that you can be more of a person, focus on building relationships, and you're not worried about, oh gosh, who didn't I call yesterday or last week?
It's a great system.
Yeah, oh
I
yeah.
can see.
So that is it for session 13. You want to take a quick breather, you're more than welcome to, and we'll jump into session 14.
All right, sounds good. I'm gonna send somebody a text message here real fast.
That works.
Oh, so
That's changed,
Yeah.
audible,
Mhm.
everything square there. I think somebody had left a little bit or something. Sure.
Well, the car, the phone. Is 992. For
I had that on mute the whole time.
No, I